Hey boss, Digimon here and welcome back to my channel.
This your boy.
This is the episode 10 Digimon Ghost Game review, and it was a shocking debut. But the episode, what about it? From the jump, this episode was primarily about Kiyoshiro and Jellymon. Even after the opening scenes of people losing this fighter game, it cuts to Hiro inquiring with Kiyoshiro and Jellymon, of which Jellymon knows that Kiyoshiro's already had some experiences with this game. She knows his hobbies, what makes him afraid, what are his interests. So that tells you a lot of their relationship kind of happens off camera. And whilst I think in most cases people will consider this as a cop-out, to kind of build a false pretense that these two characters are closely intertwined, but because of the chemistry and the way that Jellymon and Kiyoshiro speak with each other, it's so organic, and I'm not to play on this assumption that they're romantically involved. Please. Let it go. But they're kind of like an old married couple. And once again we have an array of funny moments from Kiyoshiro and Jellymon, from Kiyoshiro's integer overload where he gets too scared he literally just passes out, in of course very anime protagonist fashion, and then Jellymon threatening Kiyoshiro if he loses the game. But to be honest, whenever these two characters are on the screen, every time there's an episode that focuses around those two characters, you could easily interpret it as being an evolution episode, because they just so naturally draw your attention due to their personalities and chemistry. But what about the situation? Again, in typical Ghost Game fashion, they spend the first half of the episode building up the suspense. Now, I don't really consider this to be a more horror and thriller based episode. I think it's definitely just a problem. There's one thing being dragged into a game and trapped in a TV screen forever by some mysterious scary Digimon, and then there's Kinkakumon with big mommy milkers dragging young boys into the game.
Wowie, wowie, baby wants mommy. Make it dirty.
As spoils for victory. I don't really think they're on the same level of scary, and if I'm being completely honest, the situation of the week, the problem to overcome, I think was probably the least relevant part of it. Ginkakumon and Kinkakumon purely served as nothing more than obstacles to overcome. Their reasoning behind what they were doing was very poor. I think I'd be fairly right in saying they're the most forgettable villains we've had so far. But to be honest, the villains were my only gripe in this episode. From the moment that Kiyoshiro plugs into the video game, it's kind of all gas, no brakes from there. And Jellymon this week actually surprises people and puts herself within harm's way by plugging herself into the game, where Kiyoshiro can pilot her and fight against Kinkakumon. Now, I really appreciated the fight scenes despite the fact that it wasn't the most smooth looking thing in the world, primarily because they got the idea of how fighting games really go. You know, real pro esports gaming concepts such as cross-ups and distancing were used in this fight scene, so I appreciated that a lot. And as a very quick side note, it was also really nice to see that Bokomon actually reappeared so soon, after literally just last week. But from the episode synopsis video that I made, we already kind of knew that Bokomon was going to appear again at some point, but we got him again literally the week after, and that's fine. Kinkakumon, impressed with Kiyoshiro's skills, tries to emerge into the real world, of which Kiyoshiro uses his Digivice V augmented reality, which is like a cyberspace. It isn't really like a natural environment like Gamamon's and Angoramon's was, nor is it a watery environment like people were thinking, including myself. Hiro and Betelgeuse have their own little skirmish with Ginkakumon, but honestly it is not even worth talking about. It's probably a few frames, and then you don't see the resolution of that skirmish. The most important thing is Kinkakumon, Kiyoshiro and Jellymon throughout the entirety of the episode, pretty much. Kiyoshiro has another integer meltdown and passes out, leaving Jellymon exposed, incapable of fighting at such a high capacity, and honestly, getting pretty brutally beaten down for the sake of Kiyoshiro. Jellymon has been criticised for many weeks now of creating these situations which don't benefit anybody and not taking any responsibility for those situations. But I think in this episode of all times definitely proves the doubters wrong about Jellymon's actual integrity. She gets waxed, like brutally beaten down by Kinkakumon, even to the point of crying and begging Kiyoshiro to wake up. But after building up this real sense of crisis and emotion from Jellymon, she stings Kiyoshiro, waking him up, and he becomes this kind of anime protagonist that he thinks himself as, evolving Jellymon into Teslajellymon. I'm not gonna lie, I did not think this was the episode to do it, but after making this particular video on the future forms of the evolutions, don't worry, I'm not going to show you them, there's no spoilers, I'm just saying the concept of the latter designs kind of makes sense that Teslajellymon appears in the gaming episode. The evolution sequence was clean. Teslajellymon for me looks a bit too much like Jellymon, but Jellymon looks great, so by default, Teslajellymon also looks great. Teslajellymon uses Mastered Ultra Instinct and Kinkakumon can't land a single hit, and Teslajellymon knocks her back with one punch. They concede, the situation resolves, Kinkakumon stops moaning about alcohol, Hero offers Kinkakumon his father's left around stock of alcohol. Again, the most irrelevant part of the episode, it doesn't even matter. Then Kinkakumon isn't satisfied with the conclusion, and she wants to rematch Jellymon at a later date, almost like a sparring partner. But the episode in terms of Kiyoshiro and Jellymon, Teslajellymon, was pretty phenomenal. I once again enjoyed this episode a lot more than I thought I would. Whilst it wasn't the most visually appealing at all times, what it wants to get across to you, the viewer, about Jellymon and Kiyoshiro, it does that perfectly. And therefore, this was a great episode. But what did you think? Leave a comment and let me know. If you're still watching, please like the video as it helps other people find my review so we can talk about it with more fans. Just makes sense, right? I have honestly made so many videos in the last 2 weeks, I genuinely can't fit them into this video. But please check those out. You're probably going to like a lot of them. Or add them to your watch list and watch them later at your leisure. But everyone, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time and watching my review, but most importantly, take care.